All right, welcome everyone to the podcast that for some reason decided to put a number in its name, even though it can never get the right number of people half the time. Did we just rebrand it the Save the Universe podcast?
Sure, why not? I don't mind.
I started doing that with the spoiler cast because it was too much to say Four Nerds, Save the Universe, spoiler cast, then the movie name. And I'm like, this is way too much stuff. So I was like, I started calling them Save the Universe spoiler cast. I'm like, well, this is actually kind of clean. It doesn't come with the implication that we're supposed to have always 4 people.
Yeah, and also less words in there, so making a logo for it is at least possible.
Yeah.
I guess your Four Nerds one looked okay. But anyway, yeah, so
it's E3.
Yeah,
it's almost
neither
over?
of us watched it. Yeah, so the way E3 works is it's a week-long thing, but starting... Okay, so normally it would be starting on... I think it was starting either... Like, in years past, it would start on, like, Monday, and you'd have Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Bethesda, all the big companies presenting their stuff, during the week. This year... And even, like, to a lesser degree last year, they're like, no, we're going to start early with, like, kind of secret sneak peek stuff. Except for then it makes their actual keynotes really boring in comparison because they already played their hand for everything. They're just trying to get in first. But so normally it was supposed to end on, like, Wednesday.
Every major convention is now preceded by a week of pretend leaks.
Yeah, pretty much. But so I think it was Microsoft went first and Bethesda... And then Devolver, and then I think Sony and Nintendo kind of did their thing normally. But I didn't watch it because I was streaming, and everybody's like, aren't you going to watch the Bethesda thing? And I'm like, I've been streaming for like 2 hours already. I'm not going to just stop to go watch it. Though I guess some year I could just stream me watching it like everybody else seems to do.
The time it's been interesting watching myself change my entire reaction to E3 and the concept of it, because... Once upon a time, like back when I think it was when they were announcing Halo 4 and Peter Moore like tattooed the release date on his arm and stuff like that. Like I bought that E3 on DVD at GameStop as like a multi-disc set so I could watch it at home
Yeah, I guess those were
2003, so it was like streaming video was like a foreign concept. YouTube wouldn't exist for like 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah, I think Google Video was a thing at that point, and I think YouTube
back when I was
like
manually downloading MP4s to watch Red vs. Blue.
Oh yeah. So
I went to GameStop and bought the DVDs to watch E3. Like that was the weird. Like I cared enough to look at that stuff. Nowadays, E3 passes by, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll look up a list of the stuff they announced.
Well, part of it is like
I don't
10
have
years
like
ago,
12 hours to waste.
10 years ago, the games industry, I would argue, is a lot simpler. There weren't indie games for the most part, and most developers only had like a couple of games coming out. There's still a lot of like kind of B-lister games, but there weren't as many, I would say. I this could be me purely pulling this out of my ass, but I always felt the list was a lot smaller. Prior to the like indie explosion, more or less. And there also weren't that many remakes back in the mid-2000s that I remember. Whereas
they got busy and big because all the money got big and the audience got big.
So
now they're all fighting for space.
Number one question on the list that I've seen thrown your way as far as E3 is, are you going to play Bubsy?
Why would they do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it. At least the developer for the new Bubsy game is actually reputable. It's not some no-name people, but they're the people that made the twin... Oh, shoot.
Are there people who both like and remember Bubsy games? Especially the 2D ones?
Oh.
That's what's confusing
the developers,
me.
The developer for it is the people that made the Gianna Sisters, which is a reboot of a game series that nobody cared about either. So there's actually a small possibility it could be good. And that was
the franchise that has its birth as being a Mario ripoff, and that was the explicit goal of making those games to begin with.
Yep. But they actually did a good job with that, so maybe it's good? Probably not. I don't know.
I've never even vaguely enjoyed a Bubsy game before, and like...
I only enjoy it as a after-the-fact joke thing than an actual, like, experience.
But even then, like, the fascinating, impossible train wreck was, like, the 3D one, because of how, like, it just... Like
Well,
a
the
lot,
3D
like everyone got stuff wrong about 3D early on, but they managed to get every single possible thing wrong all at once. And so it's so special.
Yeah.
It's so special how wrong that game is. So if they tried another Bubsy 3D game, I'd be like, it'd be like a train wreck I can't look away from. But a 2D one, I'm like, all right, they got the license for it, I guess, so they're just gonna use it. I'm probably gonna completely ignore its existence.
I just hope you get a free copy of it so you can make Andrew play it for a little bit. I think everybody kind of hopes for that. I feel like it won't
even be amusing. I feel like it's almost hard. I feel like for a 2D side-scrolling platformer to be like super amusingly bad, because like how often do they break in a horrible, glitchy, like nightmarish way? Like how often do you ever see that? Like I feel like it's always when they try to convert to 3D where stuff becomes a nightmare, and that's when the magic can happen of playing a beautifully terrible game.
I mean, that's like constant for me with Fallout, but that's like
Whereas 2D games can be fantastic, but terrible 2D games are usually just really boring.
Yeah. It's hard to make like a glitchy, fun 2D platformer. It's easy to make a glitchy, fun 3D anything.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if there's like ragdoll physics or physics in general. The moment you throw physics in, it gets way, way sillier.
The moment things get weird and Sonic starts thinking gravity is over on the left somewhere and he's sailing through the air like a torpedo and you don't understand what's happening, but
I can't wait. I can't wait to see your fan character running through Sonic Forces.
Oh, God. So, yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
There's a trailer for Sonic Forces, the new 3D Sonic game.
Technically, this was announced months ago, but
it's been around for a while now, but it's just amusing to, like, this was supposed to be the year where the other Sonic game comes out. What was it called? The one that's supposed to be good?
Mania?
Sonic Mania. Like, they're trying to make a proper Sonic game by taking like Sonic ROM hackers basically and having them like just make a proper game themselves because they've given up at this point.
ROM hackers and fan game makers. Honestly, it makes perfect sense though. Like if you want to,
they're like,
go back
the
to
fans
the roots,
are crazy. Just let them have the franchise. Maybe they'll fix it. And so but instead of letting this year have that, they had to go and make another 3D Sonic game too.
Well, I think Sonic Mania is coming out in like August, so
yeah.
You'd think they'd pace them out a little bit, if only to like not have weird.
Remember when they put out two Sonic Boom games the same day?
Yeah, the 3DS one and the I actually didn't even realize the 3DS one was a separate game until I saw like a video of it. And I was like, I don't remember that. Yeah, and then also a TV show that I can't imagine it did well.
Yeah, I would love to be surprised one day. But I just don't have faith in Sonic games in general because Sega themselves just don't usually seem to care about their own property.
Yeah.
Sonic games, historically, not even just the 3D games, but even back during some of the 2D games, they're just known for always having rushed schedules and low budgets, and like they try to just drive a profit for it as best they can by giving them as little resources as possible while also requiring them to make like often like 2 games a year or more for the franchise. And like it's like this it's the ultimate case of like the Assassin's Creed thing that's been going on for longer than maybe any franchise ever, and it's always been handled that way. So like it comes to light because we keep playing the 3D Sonic games on Sad Games, and because we love to watch the train wreck, of course. And every single time, the dedicated Sonic fans that support the game and it's obviously amazing, and you're wrong, always bring up these excuses from the development cycle about how like this part was rushed or they didn't have enough time or something like that, as if those are excuses. The 10th time.
Yeah. I mean, I at least got to give Sega or Sonic Team some credit because they keep trying new things. You bring up Assassin's Creed, and like, I tried playing one of them and it ruined the whole series for me because nothing changes in that series except for, I guess, the inclusion of boats. But,
they both try new things, but in different ways. Assassin's Creed takes the core formula and adds something that's totally superfluous to it, usually. Like, starting in like the second or third one, and then for a few games after that, they added the Fable 2 style, like, let's buy all the property thing which just is where like money comes at you at a timer based on the crap you bought, and it doesn't integrate well with any systems in the game, and it's just there for some reason. They added bombs, they added boats, and every game would add one thing that mostly didn't matter that much, and I usually would get away with ignoring it for the entire playthrough if I wanted to, and then it'd often be gone a game or two later, so like there's clearly superfluous. Sonic is weird because almost every game is like some crazy gimmick of like, this is what we're gonna do this time, like this is the one where we
added guns and vehicles.
Yeah, here's the gun one, here's the sword one, here's the one where it's like there's the Generations one and stuff like that. Like,
here's the one where he's in love with a human.
Here's the werehog one. What's a werehog? Doesn't were mean half human? No, shut up. He's a hedgehog werewolf.
I will admit, I tune into your playthrough and other people's playthroughs. I've never actually seen a werehog level. Like, I've actually watched a decent amount of Sonic Unleashed, but by sheer luck, I've never seen anything to do with the werehog. And I'm like, this just looks like kind of a shittier version of Generations. Like, I don't see why it's so bad, apart from the dumb collectibles that you have to get to progress in the game. Someday I'll have to actually figure out, like, a werehog level so I can watch it.
It is comparable-ish to Generations in that, the gameplay is similar enough that I think they've actually have a very extensive PC project where they're remaking all of the daytime levels of Sonic Unleashed in those. Sonic Generations, which is pretty impressive. But
they look really nice, actually.
Sonic Unleashed has like a handful of like surprisingly decent levels, but then like around the middle and through a lot of the end, like they quickly like the effort drops out, and the daytime levels also become just as crap as they were in like Sonic Adventure and Sonic 06 and stuff like that. The werehog levels though are just tedious,
just bad.
It's because it's like they try to do God of War-ish stuff, but it's like really mindless button mashing, and it's very, very slow. Every level is like 40 minutes long, practically, compared to daytime levels being like 3 minutes long. So like 80% of your playthrough is spent as the werehog, and when you're not dealing with like really boring combat that doesn't feel like it changes much from beginning to end, that you have a completely different platforming system with extendo arms and grappling arms and stuff that you never trust, no longer how long you play the game. Every time you jump at something, you don't think your character's going to grab it successfully, and you think you're going to die, and it never gets better. It's, I was really confused why anyone said it was the best 3D Sonic game, or like, the air quotes, the good one.
I didn't follow fairly closely behind 06, so...
It was the next one. It was like 2 years later.
Yeah, so it's like if you take a shit on somebody's foot, and then you hand them, like, a stale piece of bread, people are going to like the stale piece of bread over the steaming turd on their foot.
I think, because like you say that it's good that they try stuff, I think they need to stop trying stuff and just, like, polish one game that's just a basic 3D Sonic game, because they've never gotten it right once yet, and they keep, instead of just trying to get that right, they keep trying to add stuff to it. Generations
and Colors were both pretty good.
Generations is real iffy, and it's also just remakes of levels that people liked the first time around.
True.
So it's just
it's kind of a cop-out.
Like, oh, people liked one level of Sonic Adventure 2, let's use that one and drop the rest of the game out into the dumpster. Like, that game had almost no original levels, and all of those ones were also not great.
I guess I just found it to be mechanically sound in comparison to any of the other ones.
It got iffy at times. It was better than the rest of the series in many ways, but even then, like, they're not making their own. Like, I want them to actually make a game from beginning to end and just focus on making it good and not like create a core gimmick for it.
Give it Nintendo grade polish as opposed to
Mario gets to have the water gun game and the gravity game and the weird hat game because they already made good Marios.
I am so iffy about Odyssey, but I know it's going to be fantastic, and I'm probably going to play it too. I look at the trailers, I look at the footage, and I'm like, that looks so fun, but I hate everything that they're doing with it. And it's impossible to judge. Like, the idea of, I mean, honestly, I just hate the fact that they have, like, normal, real people, New York, whatever. It's just like, no,
It's super weird because it acknowledges that Mario is some kind of weird deformed monster once he's surrounded by regular humans.
Yeah,
and it's the Sonic 06 thing where it's like, you better nail this because it's weird right now.
I think if it weren't for actually Sonic DX's like kind of weird city level, like hub world, I think I'd be maybe a bit more on board with Odyssey. But because there's like the people don't even look good because they don't have the same shaders and like quality to them. They look kind of weird and flat and boring. Yeah. It's like if they were kind of interesting, vibrant people like wandering around, I think I'd be more on key, but it's so like gray and featureless in comparison to the otherwise bright and bubbly, like Mario style. Like I'd almost rather just see everybody. Well,
like the thing with Odyssey is like I get faith in it mainly because their last 3D Mario game was absurdly good.
Oh,
Super Mario 3D World is one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played, polished to a ridiculous sheen. And it's a 4-player co-op game, and it somehow still works great.
I have never actually played more than 10 minutes of that game, and it makes me sad. Though I hear like a lot of people say that's always kind of the worst one. I'm like, it looks fun. What do you people? You people have odd standards.
It might be getting mixed up, or people with terrible opinions. Maybe either one. But their naming scheme for these games is so bad.
It's bad.
It's genuinely hard to tell if you're talking about the same game that I'm thinking about or not. Because like there's Super Mario 2D World and 3D World and New Super Mario Brothers U and New Super Mario Brothers Wii and New Super Mario 2.
Oh yeah, the new series is super confusing and weird.
The whole new series is just super uninspired. They're polished-ish, but they're just. It's like
it's my understanding is
that my understanding is that when they make those games, they basically have like the B team and the trainees like put together a Mario game because there's a formula for it. And they train that way to be better at for their like future Nintendo projects. Because the new Mario games that are actually literally called new are just passable, enjoyable, and completely forgettable the moment you get through them. Like there's nothing to write home about.
I just remember trying to play that at not a LAN party, but like a anime club party, and being like, I can't beat this because this is too old school for this group. And like, I was the only one that would survive towards the end, and then I'd die and be like, well, I don't have any backup.
Meanwhile, like Super Mario 3D World is like one of the most fun co-op experiences I've had in video games. Like it's just it's a joy to go through.
Actually, kind of in that vein, did you see the Kirby or the Yoshi trailers at all?
Nope. What do you want? You want to tell me about them?
I mean, there's not too much to tell. Yoshi's going for this kind of cool paper cut style, which I really appreciate that they're
continuing
trying to go
that
for
trend.
Yeah, and this one looks really nice. And Kirby's going back to crystal shards actually with the move fusion thing. So if you suck up two different things, you can combine their powers and so on and so forth.
That was the first and last Kirby game I ever played.
I played the other ones. I played the one on the Wii. I don't think I played any of the other ones since-ish. I did play Epic Yarn, but the lack of the sucking up and absorbing powers I found to be kind of disappointing, even if it was super charming. But both the Kirby game and the Yoshi game have multiplayer, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. And Child Me is incredibly jealous because Child Me did not have a whole lot of co-op games to play, and now Child Not Me, everybody else, gets all these goddamn cool-looking co-op games on Nintendo, and I'm like, dude, like, being a kid right now would be amazing. Now I'm kind of jaded. I'm like, oh, this looks fun, as opposed to being like, this is the best thing ever. But yeah, both of those actually look passable, and I'll probably play them too, and be kind of sad that I can't 4-player Kirby, because that's a special brand of fun.
As somebody who wasn't originally familiar, it was a trip somebody who had played Smash Brothers to finally play like Kirby's Ride or whatever, and then be like, look, it's the exact interface from Smash Brothers. They just kept it. Like they used
Kirby's Air Ride was crazy derivative. I actually really hope they remake it at some point, because that was also a really enjoyable racing game. Like Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed tier.
Yeah, it was just the most explicit confirmation of, that's the exact game director. He makes both games, and so he'll even use the same entire interface for his menus and stuff.
Honestly, I like that, though. It makes it so much easier to navigate. I do not appreciate like inventory or menu navigation on new games. And it's just like, where is any of this stuff?
Yeah,
Smash Bros. Always had like a really
for his approach to his approach to a screen interface is to be like, it's just giant words covering the entire screen, and the screen's divided into like 5 shapes, and each of them has a word on it. click on it. Click on the right one. Find it. And there's like no art on the screen. It's just giant letters.
I like it whenever we try and say the word.
It's almost like Persona 5's combat interface or something.
Oh, God. Persona's interface is that way 100%, which I find kind of refreshing, honestly, after playing a bunch of other JRPGs with, like, extremely nested. Going from Neo to Persona 5 was a trip of, like, wow, interface, just difference in style. But yeah, speaking of co-op, did you see much of the Anthem trailer? Or did you skip around it, or did you just stop?
I've been skipping around in Anthem for a bit. It bothers me that it's like, because I like my BioWare games, and it's totally unrecognizable as a BioWare game. It's like
the only part that's recognizable is the very beginning when so-and-so is talking to the one character, but even then that's almost more of a Uncharted feel than BioWare. For better or worse.
I'm concerned because it looks like an open world game, and
it honestly looks like they saw Destiny and they saw the money that, you know, Bungie and Activision made, and EA and BioWare were like, yeah, let's do that. And
like looking at its general gameplay and its camera angle and its enemy designs and its interface design and even its control scheme of left bumper, right bumper, and then both at the same time, like everything about this screams like this was an iteration on what they did with Andromeda with its third-person combat.
Interesting thing is it's completely different internal studios. This is the original mainline team.
Yeah,
these are the people that made Mass Effect 1 through 3. Yeah. Can I... So you probably actually knew about this before I ever did as Project Dylan.
Yeah.
I can never get over code names for game design. Yeah, just like don't call it codename Dylan, especially if like okay, I actually can't remember the name Anthem unless I'm directly reminded of it. I just instantly go back to codename Dylan. Yeah, like
Anthem?
Like I guess Destiny is not that much better, but
no, Destiny Anthem was always a bad name for a game.
Yeah.
These stupid one-word vague names that don't evoke any mental image of any kind or emotion or anything, and it's like a buzzword like PR speak thing. It still feels like a code name for a game, like Project Dolphin or whatever. Like it's Anthem.
You could just call it codename Anthem, and everybody would be like, actually, that would have been really clever if they had just called it codename Anthem and just had it out there the entire time instead of codename Dylan. Because I can't remember anything other than codename Dylan. Like I will go out on walks and be talking to Shell, and I'm like, we're discussing it. I'm like, codename Dylan. What was the actual game name?
Yeah,
crap.
It's like how for a long time people just wanted to call it the Nintendo Revolution and just disregard the name change that was actually announced by Nintendo when they called it the Wii.
Yeah, and then the Wii U.
Yeah, I'm watching this guy do the third-person combat and his bumper controls for his powers and his little boost jet that he has to jump. I'm like, this is more or less a high-fidelity Andromeda.
Yep.
And the issue I have is just that, like, I've never looked at any BioWare game and been like, the combat's the best part.
Yeah.
And I've definitely never looked at any of their games so far, of which there's at least 2 that were open world, and been like, that's a good open world that was enjoyable to explore. So this game's banking heavily on 2 things that are not what they've been historically good at, and that's concerning. I'd love for it to be good, especially and maybe if I'm playing co-op with friends, I can just ignore all the faults a lot of the time, because that's the trick of co-op is that you're just distracted by each other for a lot of the time. And so maybe that'll make it more fun.
I mean, I know we're probably going to do a series on it, so I guess for me it's a little bit easier to just consider it passable, because if it manages to be effectively Borderlands, but maybe with less grind and more kind of like theme park elements, I think I'd actually be pretty positive about it.
Yeah, I can at least say I've never grinded in a BioWare game.
Yeah. But
yeah, it'll almost certainly be... With their whole formula so far, because unfortunately Andromeda and Inquisition's open worlds were functionally identical. Like they are just the same game twice as far as that goes. if they stick with that formula, it'll basically be a checklist of side quests where you just walk around the map and complete it like World of Warcraft style, while playing Andromeda third-person combat. But multiplayer...
I guess the moment you add multiplayer that doesn't, like, totally suck, I get a lot more forgiving for things.
Yeah. Do you think either of us would finish this game if it wasn't multiplayer?
No.
Like,
probably not.
I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah.
If it was solo, like, the dialogue thing in the very beginning was promising, but there was no options or anything. It was kind of just cut and dry cutscene, which is, like, unless they change that around, it might just be that, you know, kind of NPC talking to you. Though I think the player character actually did respond.
Like, how do you interact with the story in co-op?
Yeah.
Like, because they, their solution in Old Republic, I would at best call cute.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a solution for multiplayer dialogue. It was just a dice roll of who gets to do the dialogue, basically, which is... It technically, functionally makes that so that it works, but like I don't know if that's the best way to handle dialogue. Is we roll dice to see who gets to every dialogue option, and we get our parties like schizophrenic and insane.
I know this is a little like controversial, but I'd almost prefer they actually just remove player choice to begin with. Maybe like you pick a personality profile in the beginning, and that's just what you're stuck with for the entire game.
I mean, in all honesty, if they just want to make an open world side questy multiplayer game, they probably shouldn't have choice.
Yeah,
and frankly, I'm almost done with Andromeda, and it's almost a drought for choice anyway. Like, they've more or less removed player choice in their most recent game for the vast majority of scenarios.
Usually it was like kind of snarky thing, kind of charming thing, but like all of it led to the same ending.
Fallout 4,
so it's just like, where
all of your answers are yes for most scenarios, but you can be a smartass if you want to, or not. And that's your choice.
I've been saying this for ages. I keep saying this because I'm still playing Persona 5, despite their shenanigans. If you're going to have branching dialogue and stuff, make it actually that the branches matter, or just get rid of it and give the character a proper personality and writing, and, you know, don't focus on the whole, like, procedurally generated reactions to, like, whatever. It's like, no, just make it a linear story and make me actually engage. So if we play Anthem and the player characters just kind of as a group have either one personality, or they kind of like add in extra things if you have a second person there, like I'd be fine with that if I have no control over it.
Because if you don't want to have player choice anyway, you might as well just let the characters just exist as characters, and then you have less work to do for the dialogue, so you can make that dialogue better. The problem is new BioWare is what I'm calling BioWare after Mass Effect 3 came out, basically. Yeah. New BioWare doesn't ever really pick less work as an option. They pick the most complicated, overly ambitious in scope, crazy solution for all of their problems, and then they stick with it, and then it doesn't work out when the game comes out, and they're like, well, we were ambitious, and I'm like, no, you gotta stop. You're doing the Sonic thing now, where you gotta, like, if you can't do the thing, you gotta scale back. It's iffy. So, like, Anthem could be good. We could have fun with it, and I'm totally cool with that. It's just heartbreaking to know that the BioWare that I liked starting in like 2004 is just probably dead, and that's it's never coming back.
The one potential saving grace here is the writer for Mass Effect 1 and 2 is back for Anthem. Like the head guy that originally wrote the entire plotline for Mass Effect before they ripped that up and moved it around and did other things with it. So
that franchise got weird.
Yeah, maybe he'll stick through it. My one worry is if it does the Destiny thing and it's you know, kind of like a planned trilogy, quadrology, sextology, whatever, where it like ends on a I guess a cliffhanger, and then it's like, wait till the next game and find out what happens. It's like, shit, I don't want that.
I mean, playing the first Destiny vanilla with no expansions and getting to the credits where it had like a section for writers, you're like, this game had writers?
Yeah.
For the 3 cutscenes where somebody says, I don't have time to explain what I don't have time to explain. And like, you didn't say anything in this cutscene.
So, I guess on that topic, have you been following much for Destiny 2, or no, not really?
No. I fell off really hard with Destiny to the point where I don't even know anything about Rise of Iron, which has been out for like a year now.
I was actually going to suggest maybe in preparation, you and I could run through that, considering we played all the other expansions and more or less experienced that, we could run
we
through
could
that.
play
Just
through
two
Rise
man.
of Iron.
Yeah.
Because I've only made it as far as Taken King, and we were even probably late for that one.
Oh yeah, we were.
I was super into Destiny at the very beginning. You were there because we were doing World of Warcraft, like launching the series, and
I was worried for your channel, man, because you like shut down hard in favor of just playing
during
Destiny.
this era of time. I was playing the first Destiny. I was doing Vault of Glass raiding before any expansions were out, and that was the end game at the time. And I was having a great time. It was like going back to like World of Warcraft raiding and stuff like that. Where like, you get a group of people together and you figure out these tactics and you repeat it a few times till you get it right, and that's like that iteration can be fun. It's terrible when you're trying to run a YouTube channel or have a job or anything. I was conveniently in a no job situation, and my YouTube channel didn't matter yet, so it was easy to get away with it back then, and I'll probably never be easy to get away with ever again. I was uploading like one WoW video a day, but that was back when videos would get like 7 views anyway, so there was no pressure to care about it. I still thought Sad Games was my main channel back then. That's how far back that was. So I've fallen off of Destiny the same way you would fall off anything that time consuming when you have a schedule in your life.
Yep. But it looks like they've learned a lot of their lessons. They're introducing melee combat as like an actual direct thing. Because people liked that goddamn sword so much in that one mission. I think they actually added... Yeah, they did actually add melee weapons, but it was either like a super or something.
I think that's the whole premise of Rise of Iron, is that they added melee weapons.
Well, they had melee weapons at the end of Taken King, but we'd have to grind
they were
so
like
hard.
Gimmick items, mostly.
I think they took the place of like the rocket launcher or whatever, but you'd have to grind so hard to get them that we never bothered.
The average player's exposure to melee in Taken King was just the fact that they added the physical melee weapon in like as like a gimmick item for quests that you would pick up for that quest and then hit some people with, and then it would go away. But I think the whole point of Rise of Iron was to introduce melee weapons for all the characters, and like that's why it was called that and stuff. But I don't know for sure.
But
I haven't
other things, I guess most specifically, seeing this is kind of the question a lot of people I heard were asking is the game's out on September 6th. Except for PC, which is a month and a half later on October 24th.
At least it's happening this time, I guess.
Yeah.
Last time they were like console first, PC later? Never.
Yeah, question mark. Yeah, never. It hurts to cover a game like a month and a half after its official launch. I know PC gets a beta at the end of August. But I don't think I'm going to get a PS4 version. I think I'm just going to get the PC version to just be like, close enough.
Yeah.
And
I mean, as a YouTube channel, it's not like you're going to outcompete the other channels on one of the bigger releases of the year. I'm just looking forward to it because I'm a Halo fan, so I just like playing through a campaign that still feels like a Halo campaign because the Halo franchise doesn't now.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Anthem thing, co-op multiplayer shooter. Well, I guess co-op and multiplayer, co-op RPG shooter with kind of some semblance of a story and really cool visuals.
Yeah, but Destiny's in first person, which is better for shooting. Yeah,
very true. I'm looking forward to playing Destiny and actually being able to aim. There was nothing more frustrating than trying to like leap over a bunch of enemies and shoot them kind of while I'm doing the slow falling thing with controller physics.
Just miss everything. I've just been trained by Halo to be like, I know how to control everything here. I'm in this.
For Halo, I was always... Well, I started with PC on Halo, so going from PC Halo to Halo 2 on Xbox is torture. I'm really only good with the shotgun because you don't need to be very far away. Let's see. Okay, so I will admit I've stop
on that earlier topic. Like, people need to stop making third-person shooters when the shooting is supposed to be the selling point.
Yeah.
Like, third person's meant to be for, like, our game's cinematic, or our game's an RPG, and it's the behind-the-scene mechanics that actually control most of it. But when it's a third-person shooter, I'm like, but the shooting's better in first person. You always have better aim in first person. You don't have to question whether or not the bullet's going to go where the cursor's pointing or not.
The only reason why third person's kind of okay in a shooter is if the movement is really important. If you need to be like dodging or leaping around or like platforming off of stuff.
Even that stuff gets frustrating though, because in first person you know where your feet are. At least you know they're centered. In third person games, your character's off center every single time. It's not like Dark Souls where the camera's fixed on you. Yeah, when I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, I'd be rolling around and stuff, and I'd be like, where is my... I would lose track of where my character was with respect to the screen because they're not centered on the screen. I'm like, oh crap, I misjudged all this stuff.
Especially when like one of the big tiger mechs is like trying to claw your face off and is most of your screen.
Yeah, when your character's in the bottom corner of the screen, they start taking the territory of like a interface element as opposed to being the primary focus of the gameplay, which is really strange to maneuver at times. Like, it's just not as immediately instinctive as first person is.
So, I guess moving on to other third-person co-op RPGs, less shooter. So, did you see any of the Monster Hunter World trailer or nah?
I'm looking at like the basic, like video, and it more or less just looks like Monster Hunter, but with significantly upgraded non-Wii graphics.
Yeah.
And for the first time, a Monster Hunter game that's not on the Wii and not on a handheld that has like 480 pixels. Yes. So for the first time, I'm seeing a Monster Hunter game that has detailed visuals that aren't aliased straight to hell.
Yeah, it was.
But other than that,
it was really nice.
It mostly looks the same.
It was. Well, okay. So there are a couple of key differences. One, the grappling hook is completely new, and they also seem to have made it a lot faster. Monster Hunter is known for being very slow and methodical, slower and more methodical than like OG Dark Souls and stuff like that.
Right, you'd get to like a boss and like this impossible health bar would show up that you'd be kind of chipping away at, and then maybe there'd be another color under it or something.
That was kind of one of the charms with Monster Hunter. There was no health bar. You could never see it. All you could tell is based on context cues.
Oh,
so,
right,
like,
the giant health bar was the player's health bar.
Yeah, the giant health bar was the player's health bar, which was nice, actually.
It was like weirdly monstrous, right?
Yeah, it was huge. It always has been. I mean, it's kind of nice because the fights go on for like 20, 30 minutes.
Jesus.
I never played that much Monster Hunter, but it almost killed the office I was working for because everybody got really addicted to the first Monster Hunter game on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter U, because it was also on the Wii U. And so they would just take over the like lounge side of the office and they'd just be playing over there. And eventually, the third, I guess, in rank on the office sat down and she's like, "Okay, you guys need to stop playing this because we're not making money anymore." And they're like, "Oh yeah." And so then gaming was banned for like 2 months, because like the CEO and the CTO were both playing it too much. But it looked really fun, but it was sluggish and like. Some fights would take half an hour, and I was like, that looks awesome, but I've always been so torn
about this franchise because I like boss fights. They're one of my favorite things in games, basically. And I like RPGs with like animation priority and like weighty combat and stuff like that, like the Souls-ish type feeling. Like I'm happy with a lot of those things. And I like co-op. That's also a thing I like. But then like, the first thing people talk about when they talk about Monster Hunter is like farming materials constantly to get specific upgrades. And I'm like, oh no.
So I will admit I actually played the Monster Hunter afterwards, after the Monster Hunter U, because I think I was traveling or something. It's not as bad as you'd think it would be. It probably gets worse. But generally you only ever have to fight some bosses twice. If only because you're like, I really want this specific suit of armor, and I want the full set, so I'm gonna have to kill this guy a couple of times. But generally, after you kill a boss once, they generally get easier, just because you know where the weak points are, you know what their patterns are, you're not getting beat down as much. And then eventually, it doesn't have RPG mechanics. No.
Where I literally couldn't feel my face at some point.
The problem with Warframe is they didn't provide enough variety between the grindable targets, whereas Monster Hunter, at most, you're going to run into, like, a small handful of bosses that feel similar.
Not only does Warframe lack variety, but there's also moments where you're just like, I can't really tell what I'm even supposed to try to do in this game to proceed half the time or get things I want.
They're not very opaque about that. I still don't understand some of the more recent mechanical changes that are apparently super positive for anti-grinding, but... but...
My hope is for Monster campaign to play through where you proceed from start to finish and you beat all the things and then it's over. Yeah.
With Destiny, it's like, you don't need to do dungeons unless you really want to do raiding, and even then it doesn't take that much work.
Destiny does a good job of striking the balance where you can become a obsessive Borderlands or MMO style player, or you could just play through the campaign once, and it's like, hey, this is probably a bit longer than a Halo campaign would be, and then it's over, and then you move on, and you got the same value.
And there's
you would
an
have
expansion in a couple
shooter.
months. Yeah. My hope with Monster Hunter World to offset the grind is hopefully there's player trading, because if I can go off and play with... I don't know. I've never played Monster Hunter multiplayer, so... Yeah. Shell and I played it for a little bit.
I came very close, but there was like almost a lie being told.
Yeah.
I got Monster Hunter on the Wii, and I got it specifically to play co-op. And the game says you can play multiplayer on it, and it says multiple controllers and everything on the little multiplayer, the really vague, uninformative multiplayer. Like, here's all the controllers you can use. Part of the Wii.
You thought it was
box.
going to be split screen?
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, me and Andrew, we're gonna go play Monster Hunter. We're all set, plan the evening out, and then we find out that it's like maybe like a one-on-one arena mode or something. Like you can't you have to either connect with
you have to connect with either 3DSs or you have to connect online to another person with a Wii U. So you and I could play Monster Hunter like right now if we wanted to.
Yeah,
but
that was
so
infuriating to find out that the entire thing was not working out because they have such a crappy way of denoting multiplayer on Wii boxes that it was completely unhelpful for explaining that specific scenario.
Yep.
Blah.
But if there is trading, then that should solve the problem, because I know a number of my fans are picking it up for the PC.
Yeah.
So hopefully between me being able to grind probably a little bit more than you and Bird and whomever else joins us, and then my fans helping, hopefully we should be able to just be set.
Speaking of animation priority, we've got like probably at least 2 games in the C3 that look like they might qualify as Souls-likes.
Ashen absolutely is, and Code Vein probably is.
So I had to dig around to find a real gameplay video of Code Vein, because of course the core thing is just the trailer
anime
that's
trailer.
Just like, look, it's anime. Which, by the way,
looks like Bersaria. It looked awful.
I hate... So the game has a very brown art style, and it's very gritty and detailed and textured everywhere, and then you see
it reminds me of God Eater.
You see a character's face, and it's just a blank as hell, super simple art style anime face under all this like hyper detailed crazy armor, and I'm like, that doesn't... Like,
that always bothered me about anime. It's like, here's this
anime, regardless. That's not an art style. That's not cohesive.
Yeah, it's boring.
That's drawn by somebody else, basically. Like, it doesn't match the rest of the game. There's like a Tales of Bersaria character dressed in Bloodborne gear, and like they didn't change the art from either of them. It's like, that's iffy, but at least they put the mask on. You can try to ignore it for most of the game.
Yeah.
But I saw gameplay happening, and it was like I saw a character lock onto their enemy and circle strafe around them, and when the enemy would hit you, it would swing at them with a big weighty swing. The player would dodge backwards in a way that clearly phased through the attack without taking damage, suggesting invincibility frames as you roll. And I'm like, okay, there's being a Namco Bandai game, and I think they even used prepare to die or dine or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like
their teaser from a couple months ago. It was prepare to bleed.
Like it's from the publisher of Dark Souls. It has a leaning on the PR of Dark Souls tagline, and it has like animation priority and invincibility frame rolls and circle strafing and stuff. Like, this is probably marketed as a Souls-like. We'll see how much it feels like that, or if it's good or not ultimately. But it's got some interest from me from now.
For me, it goes back to the
face.
Anthem. Yeah, going back to the Anthem thing, it's multiplayer. I'll play it. Like, as long as they don't pull the Neo bullshit and be like, you have to play the game first before you can play multiplayer. Like, as long as I can co-op campaign through it, I could probably beat it and not feel too bad about it.
This co-op Souls-like doesn't feel like hopefully like a Necropolis.
Yeah. I guess kind of brings us to the other one, Ashen, which does kind of look like the Necropolis with the blank-faced low poly style.
Yeah. It has that. Its art style reminds me a lot of Massive Chalice also.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
With like these simplified warrior characters that don't have faces, and they look like they're made of very specifically designed to be made of like flat polygons, like clay figures and stuff.
Yeah, it's low poly style. It's super common now, and I'm actually really okay with it because I like that style.
Oh yeah,
it's really clean.
I'm a fan of it. Yeah, just because it makes it so that it makes the screen clear. Like we both played Rime recently, and we'll talk about that later in a different podcast in general. But like a game having really defined boundaries for all the objects on it and clean colors that makes it super easily interpreted as a game. That's part of the reason I think why retro style visuals are popular for 2D games, is because you make it a 3D game like that Bubsy game coming out, or like a lot of other games where like they want to make a fully fledged next gen looking graphics on their 2D gameplay game, and it's like I can't tell what I'm looking at. Where's the platforms and what's the it gets in the way of the basic gameplay
so badly.
Yeah,
like low poly, cartoony, and like kind of retro styles are ageless, if only because that's how it works. Whereas like Horizon Zero Dawn, which everybody's like vaunting as this wonderful, gorgeous game, it's going to look pretty shitty in about 8 years compared to modern titles, even though that seems kind of ridiculous now. But
there's a Steam page for Ashen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because the trailer is part of the Xbox conference, so it's all like coming to the Windows 10 store. I'm like, fuck off, man.
Yep. No
one remembers that exists.
It's got a Steam page. I think there was one Microsoft game that I was really excited for, and then I thought it was like specifically for Windows Store, and I'm like, I'm not sure if we'll play that, or maybe I'll get it on Xbox.
There's been multiple stories I've heard of people trying to get a game off the Windows Store and just giving up. Like, I guess I'm not playing that game.
I'm just never gonna bother. It's just not worth it.
Interesting thing really about creepy about your operating system having its own built-in store, and a weird attempt to like monopolize it all.
It's a very mobile thing, which they're trying to move away from because they realize that nobody wants mobile PCs generally.
But I'm totally game for Ashen with its super atmospheric dungeon crawling thing, whatever it turns out to be. Like, Souls-like or not Souls-like, it looks like it could be a really enjoyable thing to just explore.
The interesting point is it's supposed to be a little bit more survival keyed-ish. It's like their description is super vague, but it's like you kind of put together a camp, and with the help of other adventurers, people, you kind of like build it up and find new people and forge new bonds or something crazy like that. But as long as it's online co-op, like they're advertising, again, I'm super stoked for it. But since it's not trying to be anything other than sort of Souls-like-y, as long as they don't screw up the mechanics like Necropolis did, I'm looking forward to it. That's actually probably one of my top games from this year, because
how creepy is it watching that weird effigy man thing like claw its way out of a body in the trailer?
It's messy. It's interesting, actually. Some of the boss enemies are realistic and not low poly in the slightest, which is odd to look at. But
they're like so gargantuan that they get facial features.
Yeah, there's if you look at the screenshots, the second one is this like
the first one they try to show is that woman that has a covered face but an exposed mouth and everything, and she has like hair detail and lips and teeth and everything when no one looks like that.
So the hair is like low poly, which is also weird. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I love that art style, and I love the atmosphere that they've got going for it. That might be one of my top games from E3, honestly. Though obviously I want to see some gameplay first.
One of the most immediately interesting looking things, but it has that the reason why it runs against the problem of why I generally avoid E3 until I'm like, oh, I guess
they don't tell you anything.
Yeah. Like nowadays, I'm like, I guess it's kind of my job, so I should probably talk about this stuff a bit. But if I didn't have a motivation to do this, I would be actively ignoring all of E3 because it's a mixture of games that are far from
never
coming out, games that will never come out in many cases. Every year, games are announced that never come out and get canceled. Goodbye, Scalebound. Nice knowing you. Yeah, remember that? Remember when the people that made Nier Automata and Bayonetta were going to make a really cool game about like a Dante from Devil May Cry with a dragon, basically?
Yeah, I was excited for that.
That's gone forever. Bye.
They showed Cuphead again at E3. Yeah. I don't know when that's... Well, I guess they have a release date now, but I don't believe them.
Speaking of that topic of games that it's hard to believe they have a release date, fucking Fortnite.
Yeah.
I am baffled.
Well, did I tell you I have access to that?
Like you have access to the game itself?
Yeah, I got a couple of keys for it, but it's all NDA'd, so I've never bothered to tell you guys about it.
I don't think you've mentioned that before, no.
Yeah.
But like Fortnite... like way back, like when I was just starting Let's Plays and stuff, and I was also at the same time writing for like a tech site a little bit for like this narrow span of like a week practically, but it was at the very beginning back in 2011 and shit. Like that was when I was like trying to write down like trailer analysis for the opening trailer for Fortnite.
God, I didn't even know about it. I knew about Fortnite 2 years ago.
No, it's seriously as old as news as like Cuphead was all those years ago and stuff like that. Like it's
and Owlboy,
Fortnite was announced so long ago that Cliff Bleszinski was working at Epic.
So it's okay. It's pretty fun, but it's kind of a grind fest, and it's not as like dynamic or interesting as you'd think it would be. I actually was watching the developers play it because I haven't gotten very far because I don't want to play the game solo. But it looks like it's kind of the same experience through and through. You usually get an objective. You have to build a base around it and defend it. Except for there's some kind of bonus objectives, like you can take your supplies back to a more permanent base and upgrade that and defend that. And then there's like kind of horde survival that it's like, you just completed this level. Now you get to horde survival it. With your like level that you just built, if you want to do that.
It's one of those games that could be good, but man, it would have been like it could have been earth shaking if it came out when it was announced.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It was an open world survival game with online co-op and tower defense elements where you would.
It's not survival anymore.
Yeah,
but
it's like it
much
had like
closer.
The whole,
Orcs must die.
But I mean, like it had the whole Minecraft day-night cycle where you're. Like, during the day, things are safe, and during night, monsters come out. So during the day, you run out and scavenge everything, and then come back to your base and build up your base and its defenses to wear out the night.
Oh,
Like, that was all. This was all announced and shown in a trailer in, like, 2011. Like, that's so long ago.
That would have been... This is a 2K game, right? This is...
Epic.
Who?
That's Cliff Bleszinski and Gears of War and Unreal Tournament and Unreal Engine.
I just don't... does Epic self-publish then, I guess? Yeah, okay.
They probably self-publish, because supposedly half the games that are made by Epic, they're basically just, like, using it to test, like, making the game in the engine is basically them testing their engine as they're making it. Yeah.
I just kind of forgot for a second. I was worried that it was going to be the, the Borderlands people, because for whatever reason I thought they were connected, but I guess they're not, and that's
for
good.
For me, I'm just like, ooh, look at these base building mechanics. Look at this, these combat moments.
Fun.
Then I see the warning sign, which is the very, very Orcs Must Die Unchained looking like metagame screen.
Yeah, the
where
big
they're
old
trading hero cards, and they have an experience meter, and
there's leveling up. It takes. It's not a short game. It looks like it's not as grindy as Orcs Must Die, but I can't remember.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, only time will tell. They've got pre-order up already, which is kind of yeah, okay, so early access begins 25th. Oh yeah, this is an odd thing. They're a AAA game releasing specifically to early access, which I'm not used to. But it doesn't look like they're doing the free-to-play thing.
But I don't remember where I read it now, but I was seeing like people talking about the alphas and betas and things like that, and they were getting mad because I guess they must have overhauled the entire interface relatively recently to work for consoles.
I'd have to look. I haven't loaded it up
since frustrates everybody
January?
Playing the PC version.
Yeah.
Because now it's like now the whole interface is optimized for controller use and is like completely not helpful at all for PC.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Well, it's just one of those games like No Man's Sky where I'm just happy to see it's finally goddamn out after all this time, but who knows if it'll be good.
Well, it'll be good for a multiplayer series, whether or not it actually gets finished. I bet we can wring some fun out of it like everything else.
Yeah. God, that's a long development cycle for what this game is.
It is. Well, it sounded like they've been
they must have just given up on it at some point and thought it wasn't going to be made, and then just revived it at some point. Like, it must have just been not in development at some point.
I got to imagine that. But, I mean, I'm positive about it. It looks more like stupid fun where we can just dick around and make something silly and not, like, take it super seriously. which is nice. But also looks like it might get a bit repetitive and so on and so forth. I don't know. At least the base price is $40. You don't, like, I think I'd be more negative about it if it was 60, because that would be asking too much. But like 40
I think when it was
seems
first
reasonable.
announced, people always expected it to be somewhere more in the territory of like, you know, like a budget game, an indie game, like 15, 20 and stuff like that. I mean, it was announced so long ago, I don't think $20 indie games were even a thing people accepted yet. And it was generally seen as being that kind of project because of its art style and general scope of gameplay.
Other games on the list. Oh, actually, going back to the low poly style, and you were talking about the E3 thing, not having, just being kind of a trailer without any useful information. Tunic. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that one, but it's you're playing as a. Sorry, I didn't put a link on the list. But you're playing as an anthropomorphic fox, more or less dressed up like Link and playing like Link from any of the old school Zelda likes, but with like a little bit more focus on combat and maybe a little bit less on puzzles. But it's got an absolutely wonderful low poly style, just like Ashen. And I guess I'm kind of excited about it because I really love old school Zelda likes, but they're so rare. Apart from, like, Nintendo making it themselves, and it looks gorgeous. Do you need a link, or did you find it?
I'm at the video now. It actually, in the circular nature of this conversation, someone we talked about earlier, with Souls-like and stuff like that, From Software was actually one of the people that made one of the retro Zelda likes, because they did 3D Dot Hero.
Wait, that was
the people that made Dark Souls. They made 3D Dot Hero.
I had no idea.
They have a super weird history before Dark Souls.
They do,
because they're the Armored Core people and they're the 3D Dot Hero people.
I knew them.
And Enchanted Arms.
It took me some time to put two and two together. That it's like, wait, you mean the Armored Core team stopped making Armored Core because of Dark Souls? I can't be mad about that, but I'm still mildly sad.
They made like one or two of them after Dark Souls started. Like I think AC for Answer or something.
Yeah, but they were bad, so they've given up on it. Unless they like come. I mean, if they made Armored Core with mechanics much closer to Dark Souls, I think they'd hit like a pretty nice jackpot there. Yeah, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I'm looking at Tunic. Not a lot to talk about immediately. Just basic like 2D top down. Not 2D, but like 3D graphics, but a top-down
isometric style,
old like Zelda-ish looking game.
I guess I just wanted to mention it because it's so heavily lampshaded by practically everything else we talk about. And like for me, indie games are kind of my channel's lifeblood. And so it was nice to see some of these at least getting a little bit of a I guess feature.
A surprise you don't expect from this game because you expect it to just play like Zelda. Yeah. But what quickly becomes apparent actually is that the game has a lock-on system.
Yeah, it's got a lock-on system,
you
dodges
strafe around your enemy and dodge their attacks and stuff. And if it's like a big boss, your entire camera even rotates with you when you're dodging around the enemy.
Yeah, so it looks like it's old school Zelda-like with more of a focus on combat, which is really good.
Yeah, the game turns out to have like an adaptive camera where it's going to be all isometric for the exploration, but then once you're in a fight, it can switch to a more useful style. Because one of the worst things about that kind of lock-on system is if you like dodge past your enemy, but then you have to like keep reorienting yourself because the camera's not moving with you,
or stuff like that. Yeah,
like it's really weird to like dodge. Like, oh, I'm the enemy's in front of me from the camera's perspective. Now I dodge past the enemy. Now I'm behind the enemy. Camera hasn't changed.
I can't see shit.
So I have to invert all of my inputs on my controller, and things get weird.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
But yeah, I guess I guess I'm always going to look forward to the kind of weirder, more indie games. And Tunic, I was surprised to see it because not a whole lot of Zelda likes, and it's nice to see that they're not just following the formula.
Yeah. We're definitely starting to lean really heavy though into this like Instagram art style.
Yeah.
Like low poly, yes, but I like the low poly general feel. The one, the specifically polished low poly, not like outdated game low poly. But a lot of games are falling into the exact same color scheme of like this Instagram filter. Oh, this is a Finji game.
Yeah,
they're getting around.
Well, Finji isn't making it, but they're publishing a lot of things.
publishers of Night in the Woods, the other game with the Instagram filter color scheme. And a few other ones, actually.
Yeah, I think this might actually be a solo dev project, not that it matters. Unfortunately, I don't like Finji that much because their PR people are kind of mean. Rude, I guess.
Shots fired.
So I've spoken with them in person and like specifically like had a long conversation.
At Wanderbot, at Finji Games, #burn bridges.
But I had specifically asked them, hey, could I get like a raw version of Die Anywhere Else, like the song as it was meant to sound without all of my like garbagey like failures because I can't do rhythm game.
Oh yeah, I think you told the story on a podcast actually, yeah.
And they said, like, you can buy it from our website in 2 weeks now. And I'm like, I kind of needed it by, like, the end of the... Well, like, in a day or two. And, like, I've got a fairly popular Let's Play promoting your game. And they just never even responded to that. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
I guess I will. I guess they kind of do the Devolver digital thing where, like, they kind of just ignore the fact that YouTubers exist for the most part. I guess it's fine. But it's still kind of frustrating because, like, I can have really positive experiences with a lot of other developers and publishers.
I love Devolver Digital's "Can I Let's Play Your Game" web page, which just says it's just a web page that says yes, just the word, just floating.
Yeah. Well, I actually once talked to, back when I think I only had a couple thousand subscribers, I talked to one of the people at the Devolver booth at PAX East, and they're like, "Yeah, we just don't do it. We know people are going to play it anyway, so." If a YouTuber wants to play the game, they just have to buy it like everybody else. And I'm like, that kind of sucks,
one of those things
but
where
I understand.
It's almost accepted that everyone's... At this point, it's just a thing where like there's almost nowhere to regulate it, and almost everyone just does this stuff. Like, it's so accepted that now the PlayStation controller just has a button that says share on it.
Yeah.
Like, that's so widespread, the idea of people streaming and YouTubing everything, that like trying to get in the way of it is so... It's going to be one of those things where you're only punishing selective random people. Yeah, and most people still won't and aren't going to learn that's based on the example, because they're not going to notice the other person was even caught or punished in the first place. So yeah, if anyone's curious, there's a website called Can I Post and Monetize Videos of Devolvergames.com, and the page just says, Can I stream and monetize Devolver digital games? Yes, that's the whole page.
Yeah. I mean, I like that, though, because I've definitely had problems in the past with, like, YouTube.
Yeah.
Denying me... This was a problem before I joined Curse, I guess. I don't know if you have this problem ever anymore. Where I had this whole, like, email chain arguing with some YouTube representative being like, look, Ed McMillan has said repeatedly on all of these sites and all of these different places, you can monetize Binding of Isaac. And the person's like, but he didn't say it to you specifically. And I'm just like...
It's like Northernlion wouldn't exist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, the Devolver one even says like, please enter your Twitch or YouTube channel name to automatically create written permission, and it just literally creates an entire letter that features the name that you typed in that you can send to anyone to explain that you have permission.
I like the fact that they at least do that, but I also really wish that they'd actually just partner with some YouTubers and be like, yeah, here's a copy, because I know for me, Devolver is the company that I will buy the game, do a first impressions video of it, and if I don't like it, I just return it. And sometimes I don't even put out the video, but it's just like, it's not worth it for me to cover the games half the time. And if I do, it's just like, well, I guess I'll put this video up because I put the work in, but I'm not going to spend, $20-30. I did this with Strafe, which was awful, except for I deleted the footage for that one. But I was just like, I guess I'll just record the one-off and then throw it away. And then it's like, wait, no, this is terrible. Never mind. But this is kind of more podcasty things. Let's get back to games.
You don't like doing the one-off let's try of a game that you don't like.
Yeah, I usually just throw it away because I'm always afraid everybody else is going to be like, no, play more of this. Because then I'm obligated to go back to it. And I'm like, I don't want that.
That's why my channel has Secret of the Magic Crystals on it and yours doesn't.
You're not wrong. See, so I guess next game on the list that I'd like to mention is Moss. I think Moss is actually one of the very first VR games that I'm interested in. I don't have a link for it, but effectively it's a mouse hero with like a sword and I think a shield, and it's like doing a dungeon crawl. And you're not the mouse. You don't play as the mouse. You're just helping it out, solve puzzles and stuff like that. And it does the combat for you for the most part. And this is actually a game idea I was talking about a couple weeks ago, I think just on a random video, and I was like, it would be really cool to have this game where you're nothing more than just like the random side character, effectively the second player from Mario Galaxy.
It almost looks like Ori and the Blind Forest, but you're playing as the blue thing.
Yeah. And like I actually really like that idea.
I don't mean the glowy thing, but the blue man mother figure character.
Yeah. But I guess I'm just kind of excited to see games trying that, because most VR games have just been totally boring, like, do a first-person shooter, but you can't move because we haven't figured that out yet. I'm like, it's nice to see somebody try and get inventive here. And I'm
it's
hoping
like some sort
that
of like Lemming type thing where you're a third-person thing that's not the main character, and you're trying to guide this character around by manipulating the environment.
It could be really bad, but it's at least nice to see them try. And I hope. I mean,
what's going to happen with VR is either someone's going to come up with a lot of really inventive ways to deal with the specific rule set of VR that's completely different from what works with other types of games, or VR dies.
Yeah,
those are the options. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't.
It's too expensive to be
derivative
mainstream
stuff all day, and they also can't just make like normal old games and just call them VR games. Like, they have to invent new things that only work with this system and that complement the rule set of the system, or they won't have their market.
They need a Breath of the Wild to sell the Switch situation, and so far I've mostly just seen...
They need to escape becoming the Kinect.
Yes.
Which became dancing game peripheral and nothing else, because that was the only thing that actually worked well with the Kinect.
So, you had actually mentioned Ori and the Blind Forest. Did you see that the sequel was announced?
Yeah. I was looking at the trailer, which looks exactly what I thought it would look like, which is just hand-painted visuals of a pretty forest and suggestions of darkness.
Except for this time, the owl chick from Ori and the Blind Forest is included, so hopefully that like kind of changes the mechanics somehow. But honestly, if it's the same game with a different story and different level set, I'm totally okay with that. Ori and the Blind Forest was amazing.
Much like Destiny, it's like the most unnecessary trailer to watch, because like it's a sequel to that thing you liked. Guess what? It'll feel mostly like that, but with something new, and then more level. Yep. And it's like, I'll play that. I don't need to watch anything about it.
I'm actually listening to the Ori and the Blind Forest soundtrack right now. I've been listening to it
it's a good
kind of
soundtrack.
off and on since I played the game. It's good, yeah.
Good soundtrack, good visuals, good gameplay. Happy to see more.
Yeah. I guess let's look at the list. I'm skipping over a lot of like solo stuff because, I mean, that's kind of just Boolean. Like, yeah, I'll play it or I won't play it, and we'll just keep going. The Mario. Did you see any of the Mario stuff? The Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, we already talked about Mario.
No,
I'm confused.
No, the other Mario.
This is the one where everyone's saying that it looks like XCOM.
Yeah, it's like a turn-based tactical shooter, probably, with Mario and Rabbids characters.
Just fascinating. And I guess like the lead developer guy was like crying at the conference because he was so proud of his project and stuff like that. Like, it was all because he was being complimented by Miyamoto for making a Mario licensed game, and it was like ruining. It was like just ending his life basically. Like, this is it. I don't need to keep going.
That's good for him. I don't know. I heard about it. Like, people were like talking about like Mario Rabbids XCOM, and I was like, that sounds stupid. Then I watched the trailer and I'm like, I'm interested despite myself. And that was a very weird feeling.
I hear the word Rabbids and I'm immediately like recoiling away from it normally.
I've made Rabbids games in the past, like the shitty Flash games at my old job. I absolutely hate them.
You've actually worked on a Rabbid game before?
3, yes. They're not good.
God.
I hate them. I think they're the like shittiest, least creative thing that apparently got turned into the minions from Despicable Me somehow.
That's the thing about Rabbids, is that they're unappealing because they're that type of thing, like the Minions, where it's like, oh no, it's that like weird marketable cute thing that's just like an almost featureless thing with cute, like with eyes, and like it gets into shenanigans.
Yeah. And, like, I can kind of see the appeal if you were a kid, but now that I'm an adult, I'm just like, just leave it out of everything that I love. And now they're mixing it with Mario and it as a tactical shooter, and I'm like, wait a second. These are things that I like now. I
always had issues with I always had a bad impression of of Rabbids from the get-go because I would hear about it via like the True Achievements website where people are trying to get completionist achievement playthroughs, and Rabbids was one of the most prominent games for a while that had a completely uncompletable list because you couldn't finish the achievements for completing the game entirely because you couldn't finish the game because the most basic incompetent thing happened, which is that you had to get certain amounts of points unlocked throughout the campaign to unlock like the next things as you were progressing through like the mini games or unlocks or whatever. And you would hit a point where all of the total acquirable points of the entire playthrough were not possible, like would not total what you needed to unlock the next tier of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like the Recore issue where you get gated by a wall, except there literally wasn't that many in the game. So you couldn't get the old achievements because you couldn't get all the contents in the game. They literally just didn't make the number right.
Yeah.
Like it seems like the most catchable thing in the world, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, they did that with Space Station Silicon Valley. There's like this secret level and all this stuff like that. And you had to collect every secret trophy, but one of the secret trophies didn't have hit detection.
Yeah.
Oof.
Rabbids is a Ubisoft property, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I can see why this exists, because Ubisoft, I think part of their mission statement, aside from making annual Assassin's Creed games and so on, is to, the moment a console comes out, they have to get a property on it.
Yep.
But they got burned last time with Zombie U.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because it's supposed to be a super interesting game,
it's
but
good.
it fell
I've
flat
played
because
it.
the console fell flat. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's some motivation as to why they're the Ubisoft Nintendo console premiere type game now is like a collaboration
mashup. Yeah,
like no, you're sharing the risk here, Nintendo, because of what happened last time. I can see that happening.
Yeah, but I want to see actual gameplay from it. But surprisingly, it looked good, which surprised the hell out of me.
I mean, it looks like a tactical game of people dashing to cover and doing turn-based stuff-ish, and you can't really tell what the gameplay mechanics are generally, but if it's any, like as far as I could tell, they seem to have nailed it with, like, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker when it comes to, like, thinking style games, so they can probably come up with some cool stuff for this.
Yeah, and if
I'll be happy to see it.
Yeah, if it's simpler and maybe less, like, dense than XCOM, I think I'd also enjoy that, because I have the hardest time with XCOM, especially like that mischance. Just, I've been dealing with that with Regalia. I did a mission where every single one of my characters, missed one guy for like 2 rounds, and I was just like, but this was a timed mission, and then I failed. It was awful. But yeah, you mentioned zombies. That's a good segue. State of Decay 2. Do we know if State of Decay 2 is only Xbox?
I have Google.
State of Decay 2.
State of Decay 1 eventually came out on PC.
It did. Okay, so State of Decay 2 was actually the one where I saw that it was coming out on the Windows Store, and I was like, well, scratch that. It's coming out on Xbox One and Windows Store.
I'll probably... Ooh, it has co-op.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Wander, you want to get some use out of our Xbox Ones?
Yeah, I'm super down. I don't even know when it comes out.
State of Decay 1, I think I'm going to start a series on it soon, actually, because I've been wanting to play it for a while, ever since I saw like the one-off video by Best Friends.
Tell me when you do, so we can
point.
do it in parallel, because I want to do the same thing.
Yeah, I saw the Best Friends Play do like a one-off of it, and I'm like, wait, this is actually like, this looks mechanically interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a gamified version of what I keep trying to do in my Fallout challenges, which is like survival, build up a town, gather supplies, fight enemies, so on and so forth.
It's like a permadeath survival game crossed with this War of Mine system of having a roster of characters, and when each one of them dies, you're stuck with whoever's left and stuff like that.
Yep.
You're going around this open world, and you're scavenging things, and stuff you're doing is remembered by the game, and you're like, let's scavenge out this building. Okay, that one's like empty now. We're done with that one. Or but maybe it has way too much stuff for you to carry. So you'll be like, okay, I'll notify one of the other survivors to do a pickup, and they can come back and forth between the base and this building to keep scavenging for me while I'm doing other things. But then I have to be aware of like, oh, is that a danger zone? Like that specific buildings will be like hives basically, where like they're so overrun that it's almost impossible to deal with them.
Yeah.
So you're weighing like that risk of the location of the local hive or whatever versus like the path that your NPC will take because you don't want them to die, and then you might have to help them and stuff like that. And like there's a lot of like simulation management stuff going on on top of your third person action game, and it's like it looked super mechanically interesting, and I want to do an actual playthrough to delve into that. It's also supposed to be super jank.
Yeah, I played a couple hours of it, and it was super janky. The main problem I had with State of Decay and why I've never actually done a series on it was the developers made a lot of missteps and like kind of re-released the game at full price without a discount to anybody that owned their like kind of previous versions and like couple other things. But the fact that they're adding multiplayer
like
and
when it went on to console, I mean when it went to Xbox One or something, or
what they did with
never mind, the original State of Decay is no longer sold, but owners can buy the DLC here. Okay, so I didn't realize that the original State of Decay was ever on PC. I thought the re-release was the first one.
So they sold State of Decay and its DLC, and then they made Year One Survival Edition, which is like the GOTY, which is available. But they didn't give anybody. They didn't actually give anybody a discount on it. I'm not actually sure which one I own. I only own the original one. I don't. I was one of the people, and I don't.
Like I have both.
I think I might have State of Decay through Humble. Otherwise, summer sales in like a.
Like
2
I've
weeks?
never gone out of my way to buy this game, but it looks like I have both versions, so it must have been like a
Humble monthly, probably.
Or a sale. I think this game was on sale during Christmas, actually.
I can see that.
It was probably like $7.
No, I guess I don't have any State of Decay.
If you buy, no, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm excited for it because also multiplayer.
Yeah, I definitely have the original, but it looks like because the original was only single player though.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see how the sequel plays out with multiplayer. It's kind of a logical conclusion considering the way they handled
survivors running around and doing things.
Yeah, how they handled it in the previous game. Having another player in there makes logical sense. Considering the difficulties the game seemed to have the first time around, I wouldn't be surprised if they couldn't handle co-op really that time around.
Yeah,
because I think State of Decay was originally designed to be like an open world, like MMO style game, and they took that giant map that they had and were like, "This isn't working," and they just turned it into a different game basically because, I think that's actually like legit like part of the development history of that game is that it was supposed to be an MMO.
I know it's a story. I've never looked into it because they pissed off so many people. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna back away from this for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, it was originally titled Class 3. Its founder from Jeff Strain, co-creator of World of Warcraft.
That's cool.
I think it was supposed to be. Yep, it was supposed to be. They say Class 4 will be one of the first zombie massively multiplayer online games to come to Xbox One, which is there's a lot of qualifiers, frankly. So that's kind of not a great claim to make in the first place.
Yeah.
One of the first MMOs on the Xbox One that's about zombies. I'm like, that's all right. You added too many, but yeah. It was supposed to be an MMO, and it turned into this, and now they're making a sequel to that because people liked it.
Yeah, probably for the best. MMOs are kind of super hit and miss.
It's neat to see a troubled development cycle sort of salvage project turn into something interesting, as opposed to like Andromeda was supposed to be like No Man's Sky originally. It's supposed to be an infinite super galaxy. Did you have you seen like the Kotaku article where they have tons of interviews about the development of Andromeda? Like that was supposed to be like a procedural generation game. That was the original goal, and it was supposed to have space travel. It was supposed to be like No Man's Sky, but before they announced No Man's Sky, and they, just like No Man's Sky, did not
realize it was a terrible idea.
Did not land on what they were going for. Ooh, boy.
That's probably for the best.
That's interesting to know about, that it was going to be an even worse idea.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about Vampire, seeing as bad ideas?
Vampire? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game that we've actually been talking about sort of prior to this. I am
Which developer is this?
unconvinced.
This came up in an earlier conversation.
These are the same people as Life is Strange.
Life is Strange. There we go.
So I guess
Yeah.
let's also mention Life is Strange prequel as well.
Yeah, so there's a company called Don't Nod. Once upon a time, they made a game called Remember Me, which is
was
a game
pretty but terrible.
Yeah, they had news articles. They had interviews where they were like, "Oh, we had to fight for the ability to have a female protagonist that actually kisses a boy during the game." Was the thing they made a point of at the time because people didn't want. People were like, "Well, the audience is primarily male, so don't want to make them kiss a guy. That'll make them uncomfortable." Was supposedly what people were saying about that crap. Ultimately, was a game shunned for not having great gameplay in general, really. And really, people seem to only compliment the rewind feature, where they would have a gameplay segment where you're investigating some kind of thing, and you'd be rewinding and fast forward and playing back something, and like that was supposed to be interesting, but apparently only happens like a couple times in the game. So
I think it's 4 times total-ish.
Yeah, so it was like supposed to be the best part of the game, and it was underutilized, but
yeah,
I guess they must have clung to that because then they made Life is Strange, a game about a girl who has rewind powers and goes through Telltale game style adventures. Now things are getting weird because they announced Life is Strange 2, but the company that made Life is Strange is making Vampire, some kind of vampire action game. Meanwhile, a completely different company that has primarily done crappy port jobs and a bunch of really uninteresting projects is making a Life is Strange prequel that is not Life is Strange 2.
Yes.
That's where you play as Chloe for 3 episodes before Life is Strange. Man, that's a complicated story.
And then they did the thing that you absolutely hate, where you have to either buy the bonus episode separately or pre-order the whole thing for whatever amount of money. I hate that. I hate that so much.
I'm really baffled by this thing because like Telltale Games popularized episodic games, and more or less. And I have my own issue with Telltale because one thing I hate about them is that they make this season pass for their game, and then they heavily discount it before the season's done.
Yep.
So it's like you're disrespecting, in a way, everyone who pays full price for your game by giving it like a 50% off or 75% off when like you're only like 3 episodes into your 5-episode season. So like,
oh yeah, I definitely bought Walking Dead that way.
It happened Walking Dead. It happened to Wolf Among Us. It happened to every single season of their games. The whole point of paying full price is to get it first. But if you don't even get it first for full price, what the hell? Like, that's a stab in the back every time they do that. But at least they make it straightforward, which is that the season pass is the 5 episodes or whatever number of episodes, and that's it. There's no weird gimmicks. Multiple companies now made this mistake. Now we've had the
King's
Hitman
Quest.
game. We have a King's Quest. If you buy the the whole point of the season pass is it's supposed to be an option. You can buy the season pass, or you can buy each episode individually as they come out, and the season pass is like a pre-ordered discount, or maybe not, because Telltale games on PC are just one game in many cases, and you just have to accept that the game's not out yet when it comes to the other episodes, but there's no episodic feature. In King's Quest's case, you could buy each episode as it came out, or you could buy the complete story or whatever they called it for $40. If you didn't buy the complete story, you could not play the epilogue. There was an epilogue chapter, and you could not buy it. So when it came out, it was exclusive to people who bought the complete edition, which were people blindly supporting the full package before knowing any of it's going to be good. And there's no way to
buy
convert to it
after the fact.
Like, what's the point of having episodic games if you can't buy an episode before deciding to commit to the rest of the project? And King's Quest had specifically, I believe, you could buy the first episode and then you could buy the rest of the episodes as a bundle. They specifically had a 2 through 5 bundle, which still is not the complete story, so you still don't get the epilogue for buying that version of the season pass.
That's awful.
And Hitman 2016 was similarly confusing, where they had several different breakdowns of how to buy the game, and ultimately, if you didn't just blindly buy the full package, the complete story, or whatever they called that was something like that, you would not get the nighttime versions of various levels that had different objectives and missions and so on, and were different levels, because they were like the nightlife version of each level. Like, they weren't completely unique maps, but they were unique playable scenarios, and they were exclusive to that specific bundle that you had to get from the get-go. And so they're doing that again here. Life is Strange 1. The original Life is Strange was 5 episodes. You could buy individually or as a bundle, and you could mix and match, and it didn't matter. This Life is Strange prequel, you have to buy the season pass, like deluxe upgrade edition version thing, in order to get the epilogue chapter where you play as where you're going to play as Max again, apparently, for some sort of follow-up. If you buy the 3 episodes individually, you don't get all of it. But it's also super scummy because the 3 episodes are like $5 each, right? So the season pass for just the episodes is like $15. If you want the deluxe edition that has the epilogue, it's like $25. The epilogue costs more than all of the other content in the game individually, but even though it has a suggestion of being a smaller, less important chapter, but it's bundled with a soundtrack and costumes. And it's such a dick move to say that if you want the complete story, you have to buy all of the cosmetic and bullshit DLC that people normally don't care about in their game.
The other problem is the voice actress for Chloe specifically is not returning to the role. Because of the voice actor boycott, Ashley Birch will not be Chloe again. Which might be okay, but probably won't be. That's really bad.
Ashley Birch isn't playing the character that's the main character?
Yep.
Oh, I mean, there are Ashley Birch sound-alikes out there, because
there absolutely are.
I definitely misidentify her often enough, but boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
So, to be clear, this is a game that has a super predatory pricing structure. It's being made by the people that didn't make the game that you actually care about if you care about Life is Strange, and it's not going to have the right voice actor. A+. It's going to be great. Can't wait.
Who's the exact developer? I know the exact developers made stuff in the past, but they
have, but not something you'd be happy to see.
Yeah.
At all.
I'm trying to remember. Unfortunately, Google is not showing me.
I looked at them before. They're like a port house. Like they're one. Let's see.
It's Deck 9.
Deck 9 Games. They did Cool Borders and My Street and Madagascar Escape to Africa and Ratchet Deadlocked HD and the Ratchet and Clank Collection and ports. They had a canceled project called Warrior's Lair. Then they made a lot of Android and iOS games.
They made the Neopets action RPG on the PS2. That's hilarious.
Yep.
And terrible.
Neopets. They made Madagascar. They did a lot of ports for games, and they made iOS games. And they have they're only looking past these. Yeah, Ratchet Deadlocked is HD. Ratchet and Clank Collection. Those are both HD remakes. So, assuming they even made Madagascar, because I don't know if they made it or ported it. Their most recent project, like Madagascar, is 2008. So in the last
been 9 years since they've made a game.
Yeah, in the last 10 years, Warrior's Lair, the canceled PS3 project, is the only game they've tried to make in like this decade besides iOS games and HD remakes of other people's games. And they're gonna make the Life is Strange prequel trilogy series.
That's worrying.
Oh, I mean, no.
Maybe they've like wiped the studio and it's actually just populated with People Can Fly, but I don't know. So that's
I still more or less recommend Life is Strange, the original series. It's worth checking out if you like episodic adventure game narrative decision type things.
Yeah, if you like Night in the Woods or that other one that I totally forget. The one where they're on the island and there's ghosts and shit. I forget.
Yeah,
there we go. That one.
Yeah, Oxenfree, Life is Strange, and Night in the Woods all sort of belong together as this like semi-supernatural, angsty teenager indie Instagram filter series.
Let's see. But back to the original topic, we've also been looking at the game that the main studio is making, Vampire, which looks horrible.
Yeah, it's... Boy, oh boy, we'll see. Yeah, so the original Life is Strange devs are making Vampire, so they're going back to making another like third-person action game with a very distinctive art style, again, like they did in their last 2 games. But man, we'll see if they can do it, because like they managed to strike gold with Life is Strange, and it sold exceptionally well, and a lot of people are super into it. I don't know if this is their strong suit, and I don't know if
So
it seems like they use Life is Strange success as an excuse to go back to this, right?
So sort of, yeah. The thing is, I'm actually looking at Vampire, and it almost looks like they're trying to do a Souls-like style combat. They have the same like item thing in the bottom left corner, which is like healing items and like weapons that you can switch between. But it looks like you also have some abilities and some other stuff, and maybe like a little bit more platforming. But yeah, no.
So we could get our first ever Bloodborne like.
Yeah, maybe. It's confusing, and I don't know where to go with it. I mean, if it turns out to be good, awesome. But it is hard to like be on board with this before actually having it in my hands. I found the
proper gameplay video now. It has.
It looks like they're trying to cross Bloodborne with like maybe Dishonored level of like
I'm watching a
maneuvering.
2016 video. Did you find 2017 gameplay?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's that Mr. Ice and Fire guy that you were complaining about.
No, I found the official video on PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Is there an actual? Oh, yeah, there it is.
It's weird how there's such an undercurrent of like channels that just take all the promotional videos and re-upload them themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the same video. Yeah, no, it's actually absolutely trying to do the Bloodborne thing, because it's kind of this slow, methodical dodging. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of the Surge, but it's got the
inventory. That interface has to go.
Yes.
That's unfortunate. It's really plain, like really like flat, like here's a rectangle that is your health bar and stuff like that, and they're just flat colors that seem not nothing seems elegant about how they're on the screen.
I can tell which one's the health bar. Beyond that, not a clue. But yeah, it looks like they're trying to do kind of the Bloodborne thing.
It's got that uncomfortable up close cinematic camera where they have to awkwardly
it's too close to the character.
Yeah, it's too close to your character, so then they have to awkwardly put the character approximately 1/3 to the left of the screen. So then whenever you rotate around, like your field of vision's all wrong, because you can see way more on one side of your character than the other side of the character, and when you rotate, it feels like you're rotating the wrong axis, and movement just looks weird. Like, I don't know how widespread this thought process is, but for me, it's such a peeve for me how weird this type of game's camera looks. Yeah, so it always looks like it's an alpha, even when it's in a finished game. But I haven't found gameplay yet. It's just a guy walking around a town slowly and then doing cutscenes.
If you look at I want to say it's like 5 minutes in, he's actually fighting something. Yeah, about exactly at the 5-minute mark. He's fighting a dude with a gun and a flamethrower.
He's got a full-on health bar and he's level 16.
Except for like, I think he just kind of like
a lock-on and a dash and a hack away attack.
The weird part is though, like he murders the guy in like one special move, which is really confusing, and it's like slow and awkward. And I'm like, huh. But yeah, it does kind of look like they're trying to do a Bloodborne thing here.
Yeah, they even have like the bottom left corner like plus sign of
that's what I was talking about.
You can interact with, except instead of being D-pad controls, those are like square and triangle and stuff like that, which is weird.
Yeah.
So they set up what's going on there? Actually, their interface. They did the Dark Souls style like D-pad shaped interface element in the bottom corner, which by the way is of course inspired by Legend of Zelda's weird tendency of literally showing a controller on the screen in half their games to tell you how to control them. Like that seems to be more or less where Dark Souls came from with some of its interface stuff. But this game has a D-pad shaped interface, but then it's like that one's square and that one's triangle, and like square is on the left. I'm like, okay, that's where the square is on a controller. Triangle's on the right? Why would you have a D-pad shaped interface for your items?
Oh.
Yeah, triangle's on the right, not the top. Triangle's on the top of the controller. Why'd you make a D shape? Why is there a D-pad shaped controller input thing, and it doesn't match the D shape, the D-pad shape of the actual face buttons on a controller?
I think the D-pad is to swap between things.
I hope so.
And then the square and the triangle are to use them, but I don't know what's up.
But then that raises questions, because like, does that mean that the D-pad is how you control the?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on here?
Okay, so triangle is to shoot your gun. Square is to hit in melee. The R, L1, whatever, those are all your special abilities.
Okay, so it's just a confusing display then. So okay.
Yeah, it actually makes sense once I understand it. So if you
it
press
literally is Dark Souls. Then you press the D-pad buttons to swap out your weapon and shield with the left and right on your D-pad, and then up and down are consumables.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost more
we
positive
found another
about
Souls-like. Our Souls-likes will blot out the sun.
Okay. Next year we need to do some kind of E3 drinking game for this specific, like just a podcast. We all like sit down with notes and then rules for the drinking game, and then sit down and just
for all the comments like when I play this game saying how this game is obviously has nothing to do with Dark Souls or Bloodborne. And all of my comparisons are completely unfair, and I'm biased and stuff like that.
I had that happen with the Surge. I had somebody telling me to go back to Dark Souls, calling me an entitled prick for demanding, like, kind of core mechanics from Dark Souls to come back into the Surge, because without them, the game didn't make as much sense. And they're like, go back to Dark Souls if you love it so much. I'm like, whoa, did not expect that.
People get really mad when I point out that Neo is so similar to Dark Souls, and it's like, I can't type that list out again, but like at one point I responded with a comment that was just like an essay length thing of comparisons, because the number of identical things is so long that it's almost easier to list the things that are different, and those different things can be big in some of these games, and that's noteworthy, yeah, but that's what makes it a Souls-like, just like roguelikes and roguelites and stuff like that. Like, yep. There's a specific formula of things that makes it that type of game, and if you're going to try to say that's just what goes into an action RPG, you are lying. You are literally being intentionally difficult.
You're technically right, but also, yeah, very much intentionally difficult. This is very Souls-like inspired. And that actually, now that I've seen combat, because all I had seen was him just awkwardly walking around town thinking, like, this is stupid. Now that I've seen the combat, I'm like, okay, maybe they actually have a decent base to go off of. It still might be kind of bad because it didn't look like there was any of the tension or the weightiness, and instead it's just like, I'm going to make this guy explode into blood because maybe we don't actually have a melee attack animation yet, question mark.
This game is Souls-like to the point of having a straight-up, like, refilling stamina bar, and a dash move that with invincibility frames, and a giant health bar on the bottom of the screen, and a D-pad shaped inventory for your consumables, and swapping out your left and right handed items, and having a magic bar and a health bar, and so on and so forth, like in a visceral attack apparently, judging by how he kills the boss. Like,
yep,
this might be our first I don't think I'd call Don't Nod AAA, but it's our first ever AA Bloodborne like then. Yeah, because the only other Bloodborne-like we have so far, I think, is that one 2D side-scroller indie game that was like a solo project called like...
Oh,
what's it called? Not Bloodstained, but like something Blood or something like that. Hard to keep track of these names sometimes, but there's...
Are you thinking of the Castlevania remake?
No.
Because that's what Bloodstained is.
No, not Bloodstained.
I think.
Definitely. Oh, Shrouded Insanity.
Oh,
yeah, that's not a new one. That's on Steam already, but that's our only thing that I could call an attempt at a Bloodborne like. But it's like it's more of like a Bloodborne fan game than anything. Like, its gameplay is not necessarily similar, but its aesthetic and interface are ripped directly from Bloodborne.
It actually got decent reviews, which is a surprise.
Yeah, it's been on my very long spreadsheet of things to get to one day.
I didn't even hear about it.
It's probably not amazing because word of mouth spread nowhere for it.
Oh yeah,
but I want to take a look at it at some point.
Actually,
but now we got a AA one, is what I probably call Don't Nod.
Yeah, unfortunately, probably not multiplayer, so I don't know if I'll play it. Maybe. I did okay with the Surge, so it might be worth trying.
I want to support this move in general.
Yeah,
not only
that's
do
why
I like the idea
Surge.
not only do I like Souls-like, the idea of Souls-like becoming a genre in its own right, but I also, and who knows what we'll call it ultimately, because right now we're in the GTA clone phase and Doom clone phase of naming the genre.
We got Salt and Sanctuary, so like if we can get some more Salt and Sanctuary equivalents, I will be very happy. Like, the Surge was not nearly as bad. I said some unkind things about it that are technically still true, but overall the experience was positive. And if other companies can perfect it, then that'll be really good.
And Neo is a fantastically designed game that makes the unfortunate choice of deciding to pad itself out massively so that the more you play it, the worse it gets because the game just doesn't have more to give you at some point.
Yeah, it just drags on.
Yeah, but like there's room in this thing. It's interesting because I love the Souls-like concept of a genre because it takes the strength of RPGs, which is having a heavily customizable character that's built around the specific playstyle you want to do, but still goes into like careful, methodical exploration and like highly escalated like Twitch gameplay when things go wrong, like that like thing where it's like it's not Bayonetta. It's not about memorizing crazy button combos and doing super combos and stuff like that. It's about being super engaged in what's going on because it can go wrong immediately, which means you have to dodge the attacks, you have to hit openings, you have to be. It's that older like NES style thing where you just had to play games carefully back in the day, because a lot of modern RPGs go the other way, and you kind of just mash your way through fights, and it's just not as satisfying. And that's the BioWare issue a lot of times. Is like I love the story and the characters and the interactions and stuff like that, but the gameplay itself is often either mindless. Or if you pump up the difficulty, it instead of becoming engaging and fun and hard, it mostly just becomes tedious.
Punishing and annoying. Yeah,
it either becomes either becomes like an unbalanced kind of awkward punishing, or it instead becomes just grind. Like your reward for wanting a higher difficulty is just that the fights take way longer and aren't actually more engaging. So like the Souls-like thing is a really good thing to go into because the gameplay at the core of that subgenre is a good idea, and you just need to build a good game around that gameplay, and people are getting close, and some of them are even nailing it already. And even indie games are doing it at some point. So like, I want to see Aether come out, whatever, and I want to see that other side-scrolling one that has supersized bosses come out, and I'll take a look at Vampire and Ashen, and what was the other one?
Code Vein.
Code Vein. I can't believe we have 3 Souls-like in 1E3 already. All right.
There's probably more that we totally missed.
Yeah, probably, and because we haven't even gone through the full list necessarily.
Oh yeah, I'd say we've only maybe touched upon half the things from my list, and then that's like a quarter of the overall list. Oh, and that's also okay.
A thing that I think that's probably good news. There's a Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Not good news.
Is it not good news?
Nope.
All I know about it, all I've seen is the name so far.
I'm a huge Xenoblade fan. I loved the original one, though I never have beaten it, but it was amazing and had like a really nice, rich storyline, cool characters. Little kind of clunky here and there, iffy voice acting, some questionable design mechanics, but overall like a good experience. Chronicles X made it mechanically more interesting, but tried to make it into an MMO, which was bad because it was single player, and then it ended on a cliffhanger. And now they're
Chronicles
making Xenoblade
X
Chronicles
even a
2.
sequel, really? Or
it wasn't.
They just call it that?
They just called it that because it's the same. It's like Xenogears versus Xenosaga.
Okay, I'm looking at Chronicles 2, and what is this art style?
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know. Originally, I just saw like the teaser last year, and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. Now that I'm looking at it, it honestly looks more like a kind of bad Tales of game, and the main character looks boring and has the weirdest outfit ever, and then the chick who I think is his sword is like kind of just a useless support character / also his sword with like really large tits that they show off several times, and I'm just like, this suddenly makes me worried, because I like the Xenoblade games because they were very mature and interesting JRPGs comparatively. And yeah, they got a little bit anime, but whatever.
Are they at least keeping the European localization, or are they scrapping that too?
It's, well, that's one of the other weird parts. The main character has like a more mature English voice actor for like 11-year-old kid. And it's like, that
was one of the first things that piqued my attention about the original Xenoblade game. I'm like, I kind of want to play a JRPG that has great, European localization instead of American.
I've been playing the most recent Dragon Quest Heroes Warriors crossover game, and they've got European localization, and I'm actually pretty okay with it because it's like I'm not just listening to Matt Mercer and Ashley Birch. And it was really cool
playing Nino Kuni because the fairy character that goes around with you has a Welsh accent.
Yeah.
And that is so refreshing. I'm like, oh, there's something besides American voices in this fantasy universe for once. Cool.
Yeah.
And it's not just the awkward BioWare like off-brand British voice.
So they're keeping with that voice acting style, which is good, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's not as like clunky or anime as it looked, but it looked so much more like a Tales of game that I actually had kind of like a withdrawal of like, maybe I'm not going to play this. I probably am anyway, just because I want to support that developer because his stories tend to be more interesting. Like, as much as I hate how Chronicles X ended, it was at least trying to be interesting as opposed to like I Am Setsuna, which is just like fucking
derivative of the game.
Yeah.
So slavishly derivative that it refuses to take any risks or do anything interesting.
Yep.
I'm already forgetting that game, and I played it not too long ago.
Oh yeah, Shell had me recap the ending, and she didn't remember it. But following your thing about like positive cool things coming, Metroid Prime 4 has been announced, which I'm really excited for. Because
people have been asking for a new Metroid Prime for so long.
A decade. And
so I had some feeling there had to be a new Metroid coming out, just because they did that terrible Metroid property this last year. And I'm like, surely you wouldn't be like stabbing people like that unless you also are working on an actual Metroid game and you just aren't ready to tell everyone yet. Because like that game was infuriating to everyone who cared about the Metroid property, because they were calling
Federation
that
Force.
Metroid.
Yeah, but so they announced...
So the Metroid 4 trailer is just a logo.
Yeah, it's just a logo. So they did that with Metroid Prime 4, and they also did that with a Pokemon game for the Switch. They're like, by the way, there's going to be a mainline Pokemon game for the Switch, not like Pokken DX, like we just showed you, and made everybody disappointed for it. And it's like, okay, I do not regret my Switch purchase, but the less I regret my Switch purchase, the more I regret my Wii U purchase, because everything that they could have ever released for the Wii U is coming out on the Switch, and I'm like, I'm mildly sad about that.
It's really weird that it took this long for there to be a console Pokemon that isn't like a weird gimmick game like Hey You Pikachu and Pokemon Snap or the Pokemon Stadium games.
Coliseum almost made it there, but it was too gimmicky to be worth it.
Was Coliseum any different from Pokemon Stadium games?
Yeah, so Pokemon Coliseum...
Oh, Coliseum was like the Naruto style game.
Yeah. Well, it
was like an arena fighter.
No, you're thinking of Pokken. Pokemon Coliseum was... Yeah. Pokemon Coliseum was Pokemon Stadium, but instead of the mini games, they had a honest-to-goodness, like, campaign, like, full Pokemon game, but with, like, some kind of weird storytelling quirks, and it was kind of limited, because it was... Like, they weren't sure. It was an experiment, and they weren't sure if they wanted to have, like, a mainline game. Yeah, so it was very clearly just supposed to be Pokemon Stadium again, but they wanted to, like, experiment and see if people would play Pokemon on the console, and ultimately it failed, because the Pokemon game itself had no draw. You couldn't catch Pokemon, you had to steal them from other people in certain circumstances, and so it pretty much just meant, like, I think there were only 50 Pokemon you could get in the entire game, and I think there were, like, 300 out already. So it was just kind of like, I don't have as much attachment in this. And it also had like a main character with this like weird car. It was the Shadow the Hedgehog of Pokemon games, I guess.
Oh, this was like way back on the GameCube.
Yeah, there was a GameCube.
Yeah.
And then it made a second one. I have no idea if that actually had a campaign or not, or a story mode. But it looked like a fun game. I played an amount of it, and it had some fun mechanics. But ultimately... playing a Pokemon game on a console at that time did not appeal or make any sense to me.
What an unfortunate art style.
Yeah, it was bad.
Pokemon Coliseum went full Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yep.
With like a guy with stupid hair and a weird costume with too many weird accessories just doing his weird Coliseum duel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon Stadium was a weird project. Like, with Stadium at the time, like, as a kid, I didn't question it because I'm like, I'm a kid getting a toy. But nowadays, if I saw that property come out, and I would be like, so you're going to make a whole game that's just a 3D visualizer for the handheld game and has almost no other features besides a few, like, Mario Party-style mini-games.
I don't think I even really played the Coliseum stuff ever. I just played the mini-games because they were fun.
Yeah, I had some fun with the mini-games, but I think there was only, like, 4. But, like... the core selling of that was to literally be a game where you could plug like Pokemon Blue into and see a 3D copy of Charizard fight.
Yeah,
a 3D
I think
copy
that was it. The magic of a
Alakazam.
3D copy. Like nowadays, that wouldn't fly because you already have fairly nice looking 3D. So unless they did like ultra realistic or something, what's the point?
If they weren't at the peak of the hype of Pokemon's early phase, that would be so hard to get away with that crazy thing. Let alone get a sequel out of it because they made a second stadium. I think.
Yeah, they did. Second stadium was better somehow.
Well, they had to iterate. Obviously, it's how video games work.
Anyway, I guess the last game we should probably mention is A Way Out. Have you seen that?
Right, that's the jailbreak game, right?
Yeah, by the Brothers Tale of Two Sons.
Weird, right?
Team. Yeah, well, I mean, it makes perfect sense if you think about it. And that game I am super looking forward to. Because split screen co-op, online or local, which is such a neat idea, and you're supposed to be working together. And the idea of a game that's that based around co-op is super exciting for me.
Yeah. I think more games should give you the option of having split screen despite the fact that you're playing online.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of games where telling what your co-op friend is doing right now is really helpful. And
yeah, I really liked that in Portal where you could press like tab and you could see what they were seeing. I thought that was a good idea, and this one does it probably better. But it looks like it's what an escalation of scale though from Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Well, so they're not publishing it this time around though. Brothers.
I think Brothers was published by was it Microsoft or something?
Maybe. Okay, Hazelight Studios.
Play the wiki game.
Yeah.
It was published by 505 apparently.
Okay, and this time it's being published by EA. So I think what happened is wait, what?
I guess they just got picked up for their crazy project.
The weird part is if I click on oh, that's odd. Wait, if I click on the developer, it says it brings me to just some Swedish dude who I guess is the director.
Wait, I like that they're known as the Brothers developers now, but I just realized that Starbreeze Studios, that's the people that they made both Chronicles of Riddick games.
Wait, Starbreeze? Are you getting Starbreeze and Hazelight confused?
Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons was developed by Starbreeze Studios.
Interesting, because the thing I was looking at said... Oh. Okay, so I think here's how it went for Brothers: Tales of Two Sons. Yeah. So there's actually a difference here. Starbreeze are the people that made the Riddick games, and they programmed and designed Brothers. It was directed by Josef Fares, who is the, I guess, only member of Hazelight Studios, but he's the guy behind A Way Out. Starbreeze is behind Dead by Daylight now. So they've split ways, and now it's the director specifically moving from Brothers: Tale of Two Sons to A Way Out, and then really the developer made their own thing. That is confusing. But I guess EA picked him up and is just
is currently making a game called Overkill's The Walking Dead.
Oh boy. I did not like Dead by Daylight, so I feel like losing Josef Fares, the director, writer, or whatever, kind of sent them on a tailspin. But I guess if it works.
Why are we talking about Dead by Daylight? That's developed by Behavioral Digital.
Oh, because it says here that Starbreeze made it. Fuck, what?
No, they published it.
Oh, God, that's so confusing.
Yeah, Starbreeze is also publishing Psychonauts 2 and System Shock 3.
What? I don't get it.
They're just a yeah. Everyone's a developer publisher now. Old orders breaking down. Soon Nintendo's gonna develop a game that was actually developed by Nintendo, as in the logo.
Wait, hold on. So Starbreeze made Brothers Tales of Two Sons, but 505 published it. But now they're publishing Psychonauts.
Yeah, Starbreeze made The Darkness and Chronicles of Riddick and Payday 2 and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but they publish Dead by Daylight, John Wick Chronicles, Psychonauts 2, Raid, World War II, and System Shock 3.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently they're a publisher now.
That's
starting
confusing.
with Dead by Daylight, and it looks like only one game per year is being published by them, maybe. So
That's really
not a big
odd.
one.
I don't understand it.
I mean, honestly, what is a publisher?
Yeah, but either way, it looks like
the people that
EA,
decide to do PR.
So for A Way Out, it just looks like they picked up the director and writer of Brothers Tales of Two Sons and then gave him his own studio. But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be fun. You know, kind of linear story co-op.
That was a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that was. I don't like the Wikipedia game. It's scary.
It's like the IMDb game, but it's asymmetrical and confusing.
Yeah. But I don't know. That was a super standout because I wasn't expecting it, and it looks like it's going to be nice. And they're going with kind of a Telltale like visual style without their like gritty textures, just kind of
A Way
clean.
Out?
Yeah, like it's a very clean visual style.
I don't think I'd compare anything about what I'm looking at to Telltale.
I was thinking in terms of like fidelity, like how detailed the models are.
They have like straight up like hair and hair grain and wrinkled clothes and 3D everything's 3D modeled and everything.
The faces
looks like LA Noire maybe.
Yeah, maybe. The faces just look simpler than I guess they're just going for a stylized style, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely more LA Noire. For whatever reason I thought it was closer to like kind of detailed textured models.
Yeah, everything's a little like clay looking, but it's definitely not like a cell shaded like comic book art style.
I saw their presentation a couple days ago, and so my brain I think got overwritten by Ashen or something, and so everything looks kind of extra low poly right now.
I'm just wondering how much gameplay decision the player has, because like if you're talking about a prison breakout crazy scenario, like you almost hope for it to be like a Hitman or a Dishonored or something like that, with like where like you can like make your own solutions for things. But it might be like a super scripted co-op scenario where you're kind of both playing through your separate linear campaigns that are tied to each other. So we won't know how interesting it turns out to be until it comes out.
I mean, if it's super scripted, that's kind of the same way that like Portal 2 was to some degree, because usually there's like one solution to a problem.
Yeah, but it's the difference between a co-op game where you solve a thing together and like work together to solve a problem and do things like that, or a co-op game where you have to open a door together.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ugh. I remember that from Resident Evil.
Yeah. Like, well, by the way, I saw in the cuts in the trailer they show them opening a door together, and I'm like, uh-oh. Because like that, there could be a whole lot of like, we got to do this part together, and like it's not so much that you're cooperating as much as you're just doing the tasks you're supposed to do, which is kind of what Brothers was, honestly. But Brothers was trying to get an emotional message across through its mechanics, ultimately. Oh. But yeah, like that game was a game where two characters just had to, like, this person has to stand at this spot so they can boost the other guy here, who then picks them up so that they can grab that thing. And like, it was a Brothers was not a game where you solved things or thoughts or would express yourself in any way. It was a game where you did the by the numbers thing that had to be done to finish the game, and only a specific character could do each thing, so they cooperated. And this might be that. So I don't know. We'll see when it comes out, if it turns out to be interesting or just or if it's just the equivalent of like being the guy who gets to run an E3 demo of like, look at this cinematic thing.
I guess I'm just being hopeful because it looks like a fun experience.
Yeah,
but it stood out because it was unique. Yeah,
it's one of those things where like on a surface level it looks cool, but I've seen too many cases of No Man's Sky type situations where like, oh, I can see behind this a little bit of like what it might actually be.
Yeah, no, so that's very true.
We'll see. We'll see how much we're doing things besides pressing forward. Yep. Maybe it has a cool story, though, because then I can just enjoy that part.
It looks like it has a nice emotional story, so...
I like movies and games, so if it's in the middle somewhere, I still can like it.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else from the list you want to talk about? Because we're pretty much at the end here.
I'm still playing catch-up on E3 a lot. I'm sure we've left out something somebody wants to talk about, but it's been 2 hours now, so I think...
There's
wait. I think I've heard... So I'm going by names of games I've seen a lot on Twitter, basically. of like people keep talking about it. One of them was A Way Out. That came up a lot. Then of course there was Anthem. I want to say that people kept saying The Last Night.
Last Night is a super stylistic
it's a cyberpunk game.
Cyberpunk 3D / like 8, well, not 8-bit, but like retro style game. It looks cool, but I need to see more of the gameplay to truly understand it. There's Griftlands, which is Clay's newest title IP, whatever, that looks amazing. There's Wylands, which is the Arma devs Minecraft-like. What was that?
This art style's a trip.
For Last Night? Yeah. I want to talk more about that, but I think we're gonna have to save The Last Night for when it actually comes out, because I literally can't process.
For now, we have nothing to go on about this game besides the fact that it's probably some kind of side scroller thing, like The Fall or whatever. But man, if that's not one of the coolest art styles I've seen in a long time.
It looked awesome. And so Shell was watching it, and Shell hates 8-bit games for the most, well, not 8-bit, but pixel games.
So for those that are listening to this in the audio version or something, like, this is like, it's like that super simplified 2D pixel art that you see in for lack of better comparison, like McPixel and stuff like that, where it's just really like almost like overly retro, like super pixely art, but the environments are 3D, and it has like atmosphere and particle effects and stuff going on in like these 3D environments that 2D pixel characters are navigating in it, and the camera's swooping through that in a cool way that, like, it's just immediately a trip.
It looks really cool. There was like,
it's like a 2D, 3D, a hybrid going for the Blade Runner aesthetic.
Yeah. That's really cool.
That's new.
Yeah. Let's see. What else is there that would have liked to talk about? Starlink Battle for Atlas, which is like Ubisoft's new like kind of starfighter game. Looks fun, but you have to buy toys to play it, which sucks. Ooblets, which is kind of like a Pokemon game, which looks actually really cool. Metro Exodus, which also looks really nice. I mean, there's so many more games that we could talk about.
I would say that was E3 2017. This is probably the one time of the year that we break our sort of rule about talking about games that aren't out yet too much.
Yeah,
because I don't like talking about future games too much, because it's frustrating because you don't know about them.
Yeah, especially I had this problem with Gungeon. Are you going to play Gungeon? Are you going to play Gungeon? Are you going to play Gungeon? Yeah. It's like 6 months in advance, and I'm like, fucking stop asking, please.
So we'll see which of these games ever come out and which ones get canceled. There's other stuff. There's fucking another thing called Skyrim again, because they can't let that one die. There's a Shadow of the Colossus remake. There's a Pokemon Switch. There's blah, blah, blah.
Paid mods. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. We'll see stuff when it comes out. See you next time.